Good day. My name is Chief Strongblood. I am St. Vincent and the Grenadines' favorite and most hated son. I am the diaspora machismo. Welcome to Conspiracy or Reality. A program where we look at the mysteries of the unknown and other complex situations and try to find answers for them. It is so easy for you to lose your business, your occupation, your life, your family, and your soul. And most people have done so through sheer ignorance. The world through the white man have come to believe that homosexuality is okay. And the white men have been propagating for many years that there is nothing inherently or coherently wrong with homosexuality. But in order for the world to believe this, the destruction of the scriptures have to take place. For it is scriptures that formulate man's sense of morality and values. In Christianity, most people look to the Bible as the scriptures, but the Bible is not the scriptures. The Bible is a corrupt version of the scriptures that was created to accomplish a particular purpose. There are two segments in the Bible that is highly reliable. That is the Old Testament and the book of Revelation. The four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, is a combination of truth and error, the most dangerous of lies. You see, the Caucasians has been instrumental in publishing lies in the New Testament as the word that came from the Most High God's Son's mouth. Therefore, in order for one to distinguish what are the true words of the Son of the Most High God and the lies of the Caucasians as it's published in the four Gospels, one must have a great understanding and knowledge of the Old Testament. If the word that is uttered in the four Gospels of the New Testament does not harmonize perfectly with the teachings of the Old Testament, you are assured that those words were put there to accomplish a particular purpose. Modern day churches and Christianity avoid using the Old Testament because the Old Testament does not serve their get-rich-quick philosophy. The Old Testament does not serve the purpose of their greed. In the Old Testament, homosexuality, bestiality, and even the accidental causing of the death of an unborn child is a serious infringement that is always punishable by death, and all that is required is the testimony of two individuals. When an individual gets involved in bestiality, homosexuality, or abortion, something devastating happens to them. It will be interesting to note that 95% of all atheists dabbled in one of the forbidden abominations. They either dabbled in homosexuality, bestiality, and or abortion. And their lack of belief or their public expression of non-belief in God happens as a result of what happened to them after they partook in one of the three forbidding abominations. Let us start this discourse at the beginning. In the Old Testament of the Bible, in the book of Genesis chapter 3 verse 15, after man was deceived and he took actions that destroyed his relationship with his God, there was an exchange of words between the God of creation and the very first rebel, Satan. In Genesis chapter 3 verse 15, the God of creation said to the leader of all of the fallen angels, Satan, that there will be hostility between the devil and the woman, and between the devil's seed and the woman's seed. In other words, between the devil's offspring and the offsprings of the woman. This means that from that time, Satan was going to have a nation or a group of people of his own upon the earth. In Genesis 6 verse 1 to 7, and in the book of Enoch chapter 7, 8, and 9, information is given there where angels cohabit with women, impregnate those women, and they had children on the earth. But this certainly was not the fulfillment of Genesis chapter 3 verse 15, because all of these children from the angels that cohabit with women were killed in the flood. Genesis chapter 25 verse 22 to 26 speak of a virgin woman by the name of Rebekah, who was the wife of Isaac, who became pregnant only to discover that she was having twins, and those twins that she was carrying represented two nations. In other words, Rebekah, who was a virgin and only knew one man, had twin boys that had two different fathers, which represented two different nations. In Genesis chapter 25 verse 25 and 26, Rebekah gave birth to twins, a black baby whose name was Jacob, the father of the Israelites, and she also gave birth to a white baby who was called Esau, and Esau was the father of the Edomites. The Israelites of Bible time are the descendants of the transatlantic slave trade in the modern day era, and the Edomites of Bible time are the Caucasians today. We can get this reference by checking out the Encyclopedia Britannica, subject Roman rules, subtopic Jerusalem. There it says that the Roman Emperor King Herod was an Edomite. And there is a second publication of the Jews, which is called Chabad.org, when they were discussing 14 facts you should know about Esau. It says in fact number 12 that the Romans are Edomites, and they accredited the Duke of Esau, Magdiel, as being the progenitor of the Romans. The dukeship of Magdiel can be found in Genesis chapter 36. Please note there is a vast difference between the Israelites and the Israelis, and there is a vast difference between the Israelites and the modern day Jews. The Israelis and the Jews are all Caucasians, and they have no blood relationship with either Abraham, Isaac, or Jacob. You may be saying, at least there must be some blood relationship between Esau, the father of the Caucasians, and Israel, the father of the Israelites. At least they share the same womb. They had the same mother. Yes, they share the same womb, but did they had the same mother? There are three terms I would like you to examine. The first term is surrogacy. The second term is artificial fertilization. And the third term is artificial insemination. After all of these procedures are widely practiced by man today. Ask yourself this question: how much more powerful are Satans when it compared to man? We can conclude from scriptures the birth of Jacob and Esau marked the fulfillment of the first prophecy, which was outlined in Genesis chapter 3 verse 15. Jacob was the seed of the woman, and Esau was the seed of Satan. Using scriptures as a historical record and using world history, you will notice the hostility between Jacob and Esau began even in the womb of Rebekah, and that hostility continued through the life of Esau and Jacob, and that hostility is in full swing today. In the postmodern era, the Caucasians conquered Israel in BC 331, and they made them their slaves. However, in AD 70, the Israelites were rounded up and shipped off to Rome, where they became slaves for the first time on foreign soil. The Israelites suffered the most gruesome of atrocity in Rome. The Caucasians even took control of the scriptures in AD 70. From since AD 70 to today, the Caucasians has been busy altering the scriptures, trying to hide their reality from the world, while creating a new biblical narrative for themselves. And that is why the Caucasians are responsible for the creation of Christianity. And every sect of mainstream Christianity was created by the Caucasians. This is so that they can keep the world brainwashed and blinded with the false narrative as to who they really are. A narrative that is based on lies, a narrative they created for themselves. In Revelation chapter 13 verse 1 and 2 speak of a beast that came out of the sea. This beast represents the Caucasians nation with the different countries of Europe. The dragon, which is Satan, gives to the Caucasians nation his seat, his power, and his great authority. Because Satan is the prince of this world, his seat is control over the entire world and all of the world's resources. The power of Satan is the tremendous ability to use lies in deceiving people to their own destruction. And the great authority of Satan is control over the demonic world. All of these powers was invested into the Caucasians by Satan himself. The Caucasians are Satan's children in flesh and blood. Let us go back to something we said earlier. When a person participates in homosexuality, bestiality, and or abortion, something happens to them. In the book of Samuel, chapter 16, verse 14, the Spirit of God departed from Saul, and an evil spirit possessed him. Saul's continued rebellion against the Most High God's command for him saw the Most High God withdrawing his spirit from him and causing an evil spirit to possess him. What happened to King Saul, the king of Israel, is what happens to every man when they participate in homosexuality, bestiality, and or abortion. The Spirit of the Most High God departs from them. Devils and demons or evil spirits possesses them. But since Satan gave to the Caucasians his great authority, which is control over the demonic world, when a man gets involved in homosexuality, bestiality, or abortion, one of the three abominations, God's Spirit leaves him, and the evil spirit possesses him, and the Caucasians who controls those evil spirits, which includes the entire demonic world, controls that person and is able to enslave that person using those evil spirits. The Caucasians are able to inflict great and severe punishment upon their new slaves, and the Caucasians now determine how, when, where, and why they do anything and everything. They become a slave, where for them there is no liberation, there is no freedom, ever. They will remain a slave until they are dead. That is so unless the Most High God send another messenger like he sent Jesus, with the power to forgive sin and the power to cast out devils. Let us not forget the Son of the Most High God said, in John chapter 14, he says, "Greater things than I have done, you are going to do." The question you may be asking here is, how does this slave thing works in real life? The slave situation that I'm speaking about works the same way as it worked in the transatlantic slave trade, except with the fields and the whips. There is no longer a great demand for tobacco and sugarcane in the manner it was during the transatlantic slave trade. So the field today is the conventional workplace, and the whip is a use of witchcraft, as a voodoo practitioner used when he used a voodoo doll to inflict pain and injuries upon one of his victims. Today the slave owners send their slaves out to work, and the slave owner receives the lion's share of the slave's wages or business profits. The slave owner also controls every aspect of the slave's life, from where he purchases groceries, where he shops for clothes, and what type of clothing he or she wears. There are homeless white people who own slaves, who are professional, qualified, and are actively employed, makes good wages, and are able to afford to live in a home. But that slave have to give the homeless slave master a piece of his money as a tribute to him for his slavery. I met this young lady who I became very friendly with by the name of Dominic. Dominic was shot by a business owner in Los Angeles, California. She got a lawyer. She sued the business owner, who was an Arab. Dominic and her lawyer took the matters to civil court. They won a judgment of about $20,000, and Dominic never saw a penny of that judgment. That is because her master took her 20 grand judgment for himself. Then he got her a job to drive the dash buses. If you come to Grand Park, you will find a homeless man there by the name of Ray. Ray pushes around a shopping cart with all of his belongings in that shopping cart. Ray does not own slaves himself, but he supervised about 15 African American slaves on behalf of Caucasians. These slaves, most of whom are unemployed, are sent out to do jobs, recycling and other things, and they have to give Ray a share of the money they make. On a regular, you can see Ray communicating with them and finding out what they did for the day and other things like that. This is normal in Los Angeles, California. In 2024, we saw the sad and inspirational story of Steve Harvey.
My accountant died, and a girl that worked for him called my lawyer and said she had found on the floor all my tax forms for 7 years, signed and with the checks stapled to them. So I'm thinking they were cashing the checks, keeping the money, and not turning in the tax form for 7 years.
How much money did that?
I ended up owing $22 million with the penalties. If in 2008, and so we need a tax payment plan. I took every comedy gig in this country. I signed every contract. I never missed a payment. And for 4 years in a row, I was sending $650,000 a month to the government, plus.
Who was alleged to have his monies embezzled by his accountant. Monies which was dedicated for the payment of Steve Harvey's taxes over a 7-year period. It was alleged that Steve Harvey owed the government of the United States of America over $20 million plus penalties for the wrongdoing of his accountant. However, I am telling you that Steve Harvey's accountant did not mess up on his taxes. But Steve Harvey lost millions of dollars in his earnings because his master decided that he should have those earnings and Steve Harvey can go out and make more monies. How is it possible for thousands of athletes and performers who have made hundreds of millions of dollars to go broke after a few years in retirement? It is totally impossible. The fact is, their masters takes their monies and there is nothing they can do about it. And the easiest thing to be blamed is the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service. Listen to this clip of Cat Williams speak about the people of Hollywood and selling their souls.
These people are not powerful. Satan can't create anything. That includes blessings for his people. Do you know what the #1 job of somebody that sold their soul in Hollywood is?
What?
It's to act like it didn't happen. It's to act like it didn't happen.
Cat Williams knew that something was wrong with the behaviors of his colleagues in Hollywood, but Cat Williams did not know what was exactly wrong with their behaviors. That is why he said what he says. What I will tell you here is the people in Hollywood who have sold their souls to the devil are not ashamed that they have sold their souls. And they are often identifying with Lucifer, with Satan, by throwing up the Eye of Horus, which is a sign that shows your allegiance to the Illuminati, the most demonic organizations in the entire world. The people of Hollywood do not mind you knowing their allegiance with Satan. What they don't want you to know is the price they have to pay because of their allegiance. They became slaves to a white man who has the authority to direct their every move, to punish them at will when he chooses to, and to take all of their monies at any time if he so chooses, and they cannot do anything about it. Because if they make a big deal, then they will be punished. And their punishment does not only come in physical pain, but some punishment comes with the shame and disgrace, such as that which was suffered by R. Kelly, Bill Crosby, and now Sean Puff Daddy Combs, all of whom were arrested and indicted. And in the case of Bill Crosby and Robert Kelly, also known as R. Kelly, were tried and convicted for some gruesome sexual predatorial actions against women. Sean Combs was arrested and remanded in custody, and he is currently awaiting trial. Just imagine this. You have a very lucrative business, and your business is lucrative because of a few contracts that you have. The success of your business puts you and your family in a position where you can live a better life. Then someone come and demand you sell them the contracts that makes your business very lucrative. You do not want to, because you know selling these contracts will set your business back and will affect the quality of the life you have come to love and enjoy. Because a person has esoteric and demonic powers, you are forced to relinquish these contracts. Look at your business suffer and change the quality of life you have come accustomed to. This is what happened to the owner of the Securitas private security company in Los Angeles, California. Here in California, there are many security companies. Up to about 5 years ago, the Securitas private security company was the largest and most lucrative security firm in Los Angeles, California. The Securitas private security firm personnel could be seen everywhere performing duties in Los Angeles, California. They had many lucrative contracts with private companies and many government agencies in Los Angeles County. They had the contract and provide security service for all of the California Superior Courts in Los Angeles County, both civil and criminal courts. They had the contract for the halls of records. They had the contract and they provided security for the Kenneth Hahn Hall of Administration. They had the contract and they provide security for the many offices of the Department of Public Social Services. They had the contract and they provide security service for the Grand Park parking structure. They had the contract and they provide security service for the Los Angeles Metropolitan Transportation System, the train lines and the train stations, and many other agencies in Los Angeles County. It is important to note that the owner of the Securitas private security company were Latinos and they were slaves. But there was another struggling security firm in Los Angeles, California. That was the security service of Allied Universal Private Security Service. They had a small staff and very few contracts. Within less than a year, Allied Universal Private Security firm took over all of the lucrative contracts, Securitas Private Security Company. And these contracts were taken over even before they expired. It was said Allied Universal Private Security Company bought out these contracts. But this is not so, because the franchise holder of Allied Universal Private Security Company that operates in Los Angeles, California, is a white person who has esoteric powers and demonic powers, took advantage of the slave that owned a Securitas private security firm and forced him to sell these contracts at an extremely low rate, making huge profits at the expense of the Securitas private security firm. Like Steve Harvey, who was forced to lie to cover up the oppressive behavior of his master, who took advantage of him and took all of his money. The management of the Securitas private security firm has to smile and bear the pain as they watch all of their hard work come to naught, and another benefit from their hard labor. It has been almost impossible for me to find out who are the owners of the franchise that operate in Los Angeles, California, of the Allied Universal Private Security Company. I am betting that one of California's lawyer by the name of Richard Ross is one of the shareholders of the Allied Universal Private Security Company. Management of the Allied Universal Private Security firm also uses long-shot scenario of things that may never happen, preying on the fears they created within their clients of having to pay hefty financial settlements or judgments because they did not put the necessary security infrastructure in place to the financial benefits of the Allied Universal Private Security Service. They also create incidents using those people who they have demonic control over, like violent attack on the Metro Transit system, to force the hands of the Metropolitan Transportation Authority to increase the security presence on their trains, platforms, and even buses. Of the major contracts that is currently being held by the Allied Universal Private Security firm were unlawfully ripped away from the Securitas private security firm. Speak of major contracts, saw the Securitas private security firm taking control of the security needs for the US Bank towers and all of the US Bank outlets in Los Angeles, California. And those security contracts for government agencies in Los Angeles, California. Richard Ross is one of the shareholders of the Allied Universal Private Security Company. I come to this conclusion with the way with which Richard Ross vindictively and oppressively utilized armed personnel of the Allied Universal Private Security Service for his own benefit against people who he don't like. He uses that security service as his personal police force. Richard Ross also used the armed personnel of the Allied Universal Private Security Company to try to pressure people who refuse to get involved in homosexuality, bestiality, and abortion to getting involved in such and thus becoming the white man's slaves. He also used those armed security personnel from the Allied Universal Private Security Service to keep the slaves in their places and to make other slaves apprehensive about what they do and the things they see in public. I may be wrong, but I'm willing to bet that California lawyer Richard Ross is one of the investors in the Allied Universal Private Security firm. This is how the Caucasian slave masters take advantage of their slaves in this new slavery. Unfortunately for the slave, even though they appear to be free men, there is no means by which they can get redress for the complaint. And if they ever attempt to get redress, they will end up either being punished with great pains, torment, and agony, or end up having to face the law in the same way Bill Crosby, Robert R. Kelly, and Sean Combs are now facing the law. My name is Chief Strongblood. I am St. Vincent and the Grenadines' favorite and most hated son. I am the diaspora machismo.